without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to our BSPU training today. I'm really, really excited about this for a couple of reasons. Kelley is a family friend. My wife and Kelley they call each other BRFs. I guess that's like best running friend. And so they've known each other for a number of years, and I've known Kelley. We found that we were in kind of the same world together because we were at a ClickFunnels event together in Orlando. And I'm like, oh, how cool. I mean, I knew Kelley the runner. I didn't know Kelley the marketer. And so we became friends and have done some various things together. Kelley is an expert at helping people create courses, and in particular, maybe what we might call micro courses. And so I have hired Kelley to create at least one and probably multiple courses for me for Bestseller Publishing. In fact, we were just meeting with Steve and Jemrick, who's our new funnel builder, to talk through what we're going to need to do, because we're going to launch a new lower ticket offer that will, of course, lead to our higher ticket offers, something that I've been talking to you guys about forever and ever. So Kelley is an expert at this. She's worked with a number of BSP clients over the years that we've sent her, and of course is now working directly with us. And so what I'm going to have Kelley do, and what she's basically going to do, is she has prepared, steps on how you can create a micro course like this yourself, and how to think about it so that you deliver really valuable content to your clients and potential clients, and also attract leads, drive revenues, grow your high ticket business, etc. Before I turn it over to Kelley, I just want to show you one thing really quick, because I want you to understand. I think you already do, but I just want to be clear on the power of what we're talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So this is, of course, and these aren't all the stats, but some of the stats for the Publish, Promote, Profit and our micro courses. So, now we may not have, I don't know that I have ever actually used the term micro courses, but that's what these things are. It's kind of cool. Also, this one is sold exactly 1,000. So the revenue is $47,000, which is neat, because literally I think one sold today. So we went from $999 to 1,000. This is over a number of years, but this is the audio book, and I compiled 6 courses together that we're selling for $47. BSPU is a $297 offer, $997, and then downsold to $297. And all that is access to all of my trainings over the years. I launched a digital ebook and several new micro course offers myself. And just in the last few months, it's brought in $17,000 in revenues. Now, again, that's the book, but it's the book and the micro courses. So that's kind of the idea. You guys are all authors here. You're all experts in your field. If you have a book, then it makes 100% sense to also have some type of accompanied micro course with it, so that you can attract the right people, give them more things to buy that they're excited about buying anyway from you, and then, move them hopefully into a more lifelong learning and growing relationship with you. So, Kelley, let me see. I want to make you presenter.
Okay.
So let me see how to do that, and then you can take it away. Okay, make Kelley the host. So there you go, Kelley. You are the host. It's all yours. The helm is yours.
All right. Well, thank you, Rob, and hello, everybody. It's Susie. It's so good to see you here. Hello. I'll just quickly start off by sharing a little bit about myself. I am an educator turned entrepreneur, which is how I got into this space. I've been in both K through 12 education and higher education for 20 years. I have my master's in education and curriculum and instruction. And when I started moving out of the educational space and into the entrepreneurial world, what I started realizing is that a lot of the online courses that were out there from the educational standpoint weren't very educationally sound. And if you've ever bought an online course and kind of thought, well, I didn't really learn a lot from that, or maybe I never even finished it, right? Like we've all kind of been in that space. And, part of the reason with that, and one of the things that I realized is because while the expertise is probably there and the content that they're providing is amazing, when we put an online course together and it's not following an educational structure, it doesn't matter how much expertise you're getting, it really can be difficult for the person going through those online courses to not only learn, but more importantly, to be able to take action and to implement, which is what we all want to do when we purchase an online course. And it's definitely what we want to do when we create an online course, right? We want to allow our clients who are going through those to be able to take action. So that's how I moved into this space. And my specialty, as Rob shared, is really around the micro course. And I love the micro course for a couple of reasons. One of which is because it's a disruption, right? I'm all about disrupting and recognizing that the old way of doing things 5-10 years ago is not the way that we do things today. And so the micro course really kind of goes against the grain of what other traditional online course creators have taught us, which is take all of your content, dump it into a giant online course, and just put a price tag on it. And so I'm going to share with you today, what is the concept behind a micro course, as well as, why does the old online course structure not work? Why is it, not conducive to learning? So I'm going to get started. As I mentioned, I've been in education. I teach how to write curriculum at a college out here in California. So unmute, shout out if you have questions that come in. I'm definitely a casual kind of person. So
You might have to allow them to unmute.
That's right.
I think I muted them, and
Okay.
So you might have to do that.
Yeah, or just type in the chat and I can unmute.
Yeah, type in the chat while we figure that out.
Yeah. Well, don't take your time in trying to figure that out. It's funny, no matter how long I've taught on Zoom, there's always, components where I'm like, how do you actually do that? I taught the whole time during the pandemic online, and there are still some nuances around Zoom, which is always changing, just like everything else. Okay, so I'm going to just get started here, and I'm going to talk about the micro course and why the micro course is on the rise. I really believe that we're going through so many shifts right now with, traditional ways versus new ways, that we really have to start making some changes. And we're kind of in this time where, we have to recognize, how are we going to shift? How are we going to shift with the trends? How are we going to shift our businesses so that we're staying in alignment with what people are looking for and we're not getting left behind? So with the micro course, we're really talking about a component of e-learning, and, e-learning is not new. E-learning has been around forever. With the pandemic, obviously we saw a huge increase in e-learning opportunities. And here are just some statistics on, how prevalent the e-learning industry is today. I do think one of the things that we are coming away from with the pandemic is that people are recognizing that e-learning can be effective, and people are recognizing that some people actually prefer to stay in that e-learning industry for various reasons. Obviously, live events are amazing, and I have total FOMO that you guys are all going to be together in the beautiful St. Augustine next weekend. But there are so many benefits, right, with being able just to hop on a call and have access to something that's online. But, we know that e-learning is projected to continue to grow. It has been growing over the last 20 years. We're not only seeing entrepreneurs step into the e-learning space, but we're seeing more and more companies and corporations really including e-learning as part of their plan, not only to educate their clients and their audience, but also to do internal trainings. And what we're also noticing is that for the companies that are using e-learning, they're actually generating more income. And part of that is because of the freedom that having an online course or an e-learning opportunity can give us. It really allows us to spend our energy on other things when we've got, these online courses and these things that are kind of running in the background without us having to show up. And, I'll also share, and, Rob, I know you didn't ask me to share this, but last year, a little over a year ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And one of the things that I was so grateful for was having online courses that could continue to run and serve my clients without me having to physically show up. And, one of the newer insights that I got over the last year was just recognizing that creating e-learning opportunities and evergreen online courses is a way to bulletproof your business, to a certain extent. I know that if I had been still following that one-on-one clientele model, I wouldn't have been able to work. I wouldn't have been able to really continue to serve my clients in a consistent way while I was going through that journey. And, that is just an important reminder for all of you who have families or children. We never know what's going to happen. And so, having some kind of e-learning component in your business, I think, is really crucial just for peace of mind as a business owner, recognizing like, hey, this is something, like Rob shared his revenue just from his online courses. This is something that can continue to bring in revenue during those times when maybe I cannot show up personally and actually serve. So there's so many great benefits of e-learning. But one of the things that we know, which we just talked about, is that there's a lot of online courses out there that aren't effective. And I actually think that there's kind of a bad rap that online courses have had in the past around being valuable and being something that we can actually take and learn from. And so with online courses, right, the old traditional model, I think I just saw, this is so funny, I think I just saw an ad that said, all you need is your content in a computer and you have your next $1 million online course, which isn't, far off from some of the traditional marketing that we see with online courses. And the educator in me always kind of laughs, and it's like, well, that's not exactly what you need. There are a few other things that you need to have an effective course. But one of the things that we've seen is that in the traditional way of doing online courses, where we're talking about, numerous modules that are maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour, just tons and tons of content, is that the content just causes overwhelm. It's too much all at once. And we go into like a content paralysis, where we're just like, I don't even know what to do with all of this information. The other thing that I think is really challenging is that those kinds of online courses really require a lot of time commitment. And I know that very often when we're looking at how do we best serve our clients, we want to not only be mindful of the time, but we also need to recognize that if our audience is spending all their time watching our course, they aren't going to have any time to actually implement. And, that's the biggest thing that we see there. I hear time and time and time again, people saying, I bought this course, I went through it, and I just didn't do anything with it. I have clients that come to me all the time and say, I have an online course, but I get complaints about people not taking action, being overwhelmed, feeling like they couldn't, implement the content that I had. And it's really not because they don't have valuable information. It's because there's just too much all at once. The other thing that we typically see with that model of online courses is that the content either isn't very clear or it's not in alignment with what the participant is looking for. Something that we know about marketing is that there are people that are at different points in their customer journey. And, Rob, to take your audience, for example, you might have some people that are in your community that are just starting to think about a book. You might have people in your community that have tried to write a book, or maybe they're halfway through, but they haven't been able to finish it. And you might have people on the other end that are like, I have a book, but it's sitting in a Google document. And now I really just don't know what to do with that. And when we use that model of let's just take everything we know and put it into an online course, What we're not doing is we're not meeting those individual needs of our clients. You know, I very often see online courses where I think I could really use modules 1 through 4, but I'm definitely not ready for modules 5 through 10 yet. Or, you know, maybe I see something where I'm like, oh, I'm kind of at that module 7, 8, and 9, but that whole beginning would be repetitive. And, you know, then I'm hesitant to make the investment in a course where I really actually only need half of the information. And so that's another downfall that we see with that traditional online course framework. Oftentimes they're not engaging. People are losing interest in them. It's really difficult to keep people engaged in an online module when we're asking them to sit down and watch a video for 35, 45 minutes. And lastly, from the educational standpoint, and this is something that I really, you know, try to align myself with, is recognizing that we don't all learn the same way. Not everybody can sit and watch a video. One of my earliest clients, she came to me, and I was actually one of her clients, and she said, I have a course. I think you should purchase it. It was about going live, and it was 30 video modules, and that's all it was. And truth be told, I am not a great listener. And so, you know, maybe halfway through the course, a couple of weeks later, she followed up and she said, are you getting so much, you know, value? And I basically was like, I cannot learn. Like, I can't learn from just sitting and watching somebody talk. I need notes. I need to write things down. I need demonstrations or screen shares, right? Sylvia's like, yes, that's me also. I know. My husband's always like, did you hear me? And I'm like, I am not an auditory learner.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
I'm gonna use that.
yeah, try. I won't tell
I have
Connie.
just discovered, honey, I'm not
Yeah.
an auditory learner.
I am not an auditory learner. Sorry, I didn't catch that. But you know, when we're putting ourselves into that longer framework, it's really hard to kind of mix up and keep people engaged and to give them different types of delivery systems. And I think that's why, you know, we're moving away from that traditional online courses. I also believe that's why so many of us have purchased these really long, intense online courses and kind of walked away just going, well, I feel like that maybe wasn't worth the value, you know, and that wasn't worth the commitment that I spent doing that. So what is the answer, right? The answer is the micro course. And the micro course follows a concept that we've been looking at on the educational side for years. And that's the idea of micro learning. And as I'm talking about micro learning, there's probably going to be some things that click with you where you're like, yes, that makes so much more sense. Yes, that sounds like that's the way my brain would work. And micro learning is a learning trend where we deliver very small doses of information at a time. And we're talking about, you know, 10, 15 minutes of information. What we see in the traditional classroom in education is that students get really overwhelmed and they start to lose focus right around the 12 or 15 minute mark. And when I'm looking at the latest brain research, adults, they say we're able to focus for about 12 to 15 minutes at a time. But I've actually been looking a lot at some research coming out of like post-pandemic times that are talking about how much our ability to focus has decreased just from moving away from that traditional face-to-face, in-person kind of learning environment to the online space. And if you think about things like Instagram Reels, TikTok videos, you know, I think those are all a testament to how people really just want to learn. That's kind of how they want to consume content. They want this short, bite-sized pieces of information where they get a quick takeaway and they can go and they can implement it, and then they can come back when they're ready and they can get more information. And the key in this is that it reduces that content paralysis that I was speaking to earlier. It really allows learners to focus on one concept at a time, which in turn not only helps them retain the information better, but when we're looking at the process of learning, the way we learn is to get our content, right? Like, so we gain our knowledge, but then we have to process that knowledge. And only when we process that knowledge, then can we implement. And so when we're not giving them the time to process and implement before they move on to the next concept, that's where we're seeing that learning and education becomes ineffective. So micro courses. Micro courses are small courses that deliver specific content in short bite-sized lessons. And I have a lot of questions that I get around like, well, what's the difference between a mini course and a micro course, right? A mini course is something that, we hear a lot in the online course world. And a mini course typically is a course that someone can go through in a short amount of time, maybe a series of days or a series of weeks. But if the modules inside the mini courses are not 10 to 15 minutes, then it's actually not a micro course. So someone might create a mini course, for example, that's like, hey, watch these videos and in 5 days, you're going to be able to see this transformation. A lot of mini courses are still delivering those 5 modules in 30 plus minutes. And so that's really the main difference that we're seeing here between the mini course and the micro course. But with the micro course, we're talking about 10 to 15 minutes of teaching and comparing to a book, which is no strange concept to any of you. It's like writing and sharing a chapter in a book instead of the entire book all at once. So it's really about looking at breaking down the content, pulling content out, and providing micro courses that are very specific and that are very niche. And this is why I think authors are probably one of the strongest candidates for creating micro courses. Because when you think about course creation, the content piece is sometimes what is the most challenging. But for people who already have written a book and they already have content, to me, a micro course is a no-brainer because the hardest part is over. The content is already there. And after that, it's really about now, how do we get strategic and pull out some niche content that might be of interest to our audience? I want to share some case studies for how I've used micro courses to help some of my clients that have been authors. And one of the things that I was sharing with Rob earlier is the recognition that micro courses are very flexible. So the beautiful thing about a micro course is that because it's short and very specific, it will give you a lot more flexibility to be able to figure out where does this go in your funnel, whether it's a free lead magnet or it's a low ticket offer. Maybe it's something that's going to accompany your book just to help people move through the process. Because they don't take a lot of time to record and because the content is so short and specific, it really gives us some maneuverability in terms of how can we use this as part of our sales funnel? Where can we put this in our customer journey to really help move people from one place to the other versus that online course, which ends up being like this bulky piece of content. And then we're trying to kind of fit a square peg in a round hole. Like, where does this actually fit into my whole system? So I have a client, his name is Kim, and we use micro courses to help promote his book. He actually has 2 short books, which I have here. I know way too much about small business tax strategy than I ever hoped I would learn about. But he had these 2 books and he just really wasn't sure how to market them effectively. They'd been on the market for some time. He works with Jay Abrams. So Jay Abrams did a couple like email shares and he got some book sales from there. But in terms of like his own funnel and bringing people to the purchase of the books, he really didn't have a system set up. So what we did was we created micro courses to promote those latest books. And we took some of the various topics that he covered in those books and we pulled them out and created these smaller micro series where somebody could go through them in about 15 minutes. So for example, one of the chapters in his book talks about tax pro blunders. Like, what are the biggest mistakes that small businesses makes when it comes to taxes? And so we created a micro course around that, which was basically like a, hey, if you're a small business owner, and if you're wondering if you're making the mistakes that people say you should never make, watch this micro course, right? Recognizing then that as people watch that, ideally his clients are saying, oh, shoot, I am making some of those mistakes, which then leads them to buying his book so that they can learn more, bringing him in as a consultant, or ideally even just hiring him to be their accountant so they don't have to deal with any of that anymore. As a result, he saw an increase in book sales, and he also just had more engagement when it comes to social media. He was able to build his email list, and it really served as a nice funnel for him in a way that we were able to put together that didn't require much time at all. I've also had clients where we've used micro courses for the actual launch of their book. And Kathy, who is a publisher, decided to use micro courses to help her authors prepare for their book launches. And so she created a series of micro courses that covered topics such as public speaking to launch your book. How do you network as part of a book launch? What are some book launch marketing strategies? And what she saw was by providing these micro courses to her audience, she was able to help her current audience promote their books effectively. She saw an increase in followers for people who were already out there that had books and maybe were trying to figure out how to launch or relaunch their books. She saw an influx in her booked calls for people who maybe were like, okay, I see that you're putting all of this information out, but now that I see that, I'd love more strategy or more support around a book launch. And she actually signed a large number of people who decided that they just wanted to hire her. Right? She had a good number of people that kind of saw like, oh, these are all the things that I need to do for a book launch. Sounds like a lot of time. Let me just pay you to launch my book for me. And so with this, with these few micro courses, we did the 3 public speaking, networking, and marketing strategies. She got a lot of high ticket clients, which interestingly wasn't really what she was looking for, but it was definitely an added bonus to be able to get out there and provide these, these smaller micro courses to help her current clientele and to convert them into higher ticket clients. And then lastly, and I know, Rob, you talk a lot about like the high ticket offer. The micro courses are really effective in just leading people to a high ticket offer. I think something that we often see is that, when we're looking at an author or somebody that has a book, buying a book for $15 and then leading them into like a $10,000 mastermind can be a pretty big jump, right? So sometimes I get a lot of, what can I create in between? What can go in between the book and kind of nurturing them along, moving them along that customer journey until they're ready to make a larger investment. So Scott is a business coach. He calls himself a 4th quarter coach. So he helps people in their 4th quarter of life, which I'm still trying to do the math on that because he keeps telling me I'm in my 4th quarter. And I'm like, wait a second. Wouldn't that mean that my life is over soon? And I kind of feel like maybe I'm in like the beginning of my 3rd, but we don't need to do that. We don't need to do the math.
I was wondering if I was in my 4th quarter, if he's saying you are, holy cow, I'm exiting.
I know.
I'm maybe going into overtime.
Sometimes I feel like I'm in my 4th quarter, but I don't think
you are. No,
I am not.
He's trying to expand his client base.
I think he is. I think he's redefined 4th quarter. But what we did is we developed a bunch of short interactive courses covering topics related to his book. And the great thing about Scott, which many of you might be in this situation, is not only did he have some books that he published, he just had a lot of content. And Rob, I've been following you for years, and you, like someone like you, just has such an abundance of content.
So much.
And one of the things that we've been able to do with Scott's micro courses, and where we got a lot of his content, is we resuscitated some of the content that he had written 5-10 years ago. He had a number of blogs that were really laid out and thorough, but they needed some dusting off. He published them in like 2010 or something like that. And he's like, man, I have all this old content. So we took a lot of that content and we created them into micro courses. And what we did with his micro courses is we had a couple that were very foundational concepts to, what he taught as part of his business coaching system. And we recorded 2 or 3 different introductions and 2 or 3 different conclusions. And so we actually ended up basically having one micro course with 3 different versions. That one was for people that were not paying clients yet, bringing them into his membership. One was for people that were already in his membership, leading them to his higher level coaching program. And the other one was just a low price offer that he sold for like $27. And so through those micro courses, we were able to segment the people in his audience, segment his leads on his email list, and then use the micro courses to upgrade to his high ticket offers, his programs, and his memberships. And the great thing too about micro courses is once you guys have a micro course strategy down and you get to the point of where maybe you have 5, 6, 7, 8 micro courses, you now have a different offer on your product ladder. You may start off by selling micro courses for $27 each, but if you have 5 and you can bundle them, now you have another level of an offer. Maybe you have a 5 micro course series bundle that you're offering for $247, right? Or something like that. So it's another great way to move people, again, not only through that customer journey, but through moving towards that higher investment. Within the first few months of his micro courses, he generated hundreds of leads. He was building trust in his community and in his membership. And he led his individuals, mostly his individuals that were already in his community, to make that higher value purchase. So there's a lot of things I think that we see when it comes to micro courses and that flexibility. And, as I shared, for many of you, you guys have so much content that you've already worked on and that you've already created, that taking some of that content and just restructuring it into a micro course, I think can serve a lot of needs that you might have in your business, whether it's, again, I just need a lead magnet to lead to my book. I need something for them to move into after they read my book. Or maybe it's even, I'd love to have a bundle. I'd love to have an online component to my book so that they can read my book and kind of go through something that walks them through the process. For the people that maybe are not great leaders, right? They need some of that accountability and something to actually go through. What I do see with authors is that most people will read a book and say that was great information, but there's still a little bit of that gap in the implementation piece. And so micro courses also are just a great way to close that gap, to be able to say, you've read my book. Here are some things now that I can help you move through so that you can get support with the implementation. And that's really how we create not only those loyal clients, but those lifelong clients. With a micro course, there's always a next step. And, the micro course gives them the quick wins. They get through these courses in a short amount of time because they're so niche and specific. They hit that one goal that the micro course had. And so of course they're going to come back and say, that was great. I had my quick win. What's next? And that's really how we can generate just those lifelong learners in our community.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah,
Great job.
thank
Good
you.
job, Kelley. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions that you have. I want to share a couple of things that I think may be helpful as well. Scott asked about how to leverage micro courses. Kelley, of course, referenced several things during the training. Kelley, I'm going to take back host here.
Yeah, okay.
Let me just mention a couple of others. So this is the digital book funnel, right? So this is where someone gets that. It's hard to sell something online. Even though this is only $4.95 for the digital version, it's difficult. So what do? Well, there's a lot of copy in here on why they should get it, but I also have all of these bonuses, and these bonuses are free. And these bonuses are, in essence, micro courses, or maybe in a couple of instances, it may be more like Kelley's definition of a mini course, because I don't think we put it together with quite the focus on small bite-sized pieces, which I greatly prefer, both from a consumption standpoint as well as from a creation standpoint. So point being, okay, so here's me just trying to sell my book for $4.95, and I'm doing it very successfully, but I'm offering multiple mini courses with it simply as bonuses to sell it, to move. And that's this offer right here. Which there are upsells to that, right? There are various mini course or micro course offers that we're upselling. So how would you leverage it? How you leverage it, Scott, is going to be dependent upon what your skill set is and what you're trying to accomplish. If you want to build an email list, then you might have a micro course that you offering as a free lead magnet in exchange for a name and email address. I greatly prefer selling it low ticket. I mean, what Kelley is building for us is going to be probably $27, which is pretty low ticket, but I know that it's going to, we're very good at marketing and ads. I've spent a lot of money and time doing that over the years, but I'm still going to sell it at a deficit. Almost assuredly, it's going to cost me more than $27 to sell that $27 course. So I'm going to need various bumps and upsells to hopefully balance that out as much as possible. So there's lots of different ways to do it. Angela says training comes at a perfect time. That's fantastic. Okay, for the micro training to take a chapter from the book and then expand on it. Yes. Do you want to talk any more about that, Kelley? Your example of the accountant, he took content and not necessarily an entire chapter's worth of content. Right. Do you want to maybe share just a little bit about that?
Sure. And, Angela and Scott, Rob, you hit on this a little bit. I think that the key word here is strategy, right? So where we see most people go wrong when it comes to online course creation is they have a great idea for a micro course and they go, I'm going to record it and I'm going to put it out there, but there's really no strategy behind it, right? And so I get a lot of people that come to me and they have all of these great things that are really disconnected and nothing kind of leads to anything, right? Which is why, Rob, when we met earlier, my number one question is like, where is this going? Because we really need to have that strategy in place. So Angela, to answer your question, 100%, you can take a chapter from your book or a concept from a chapter on your book, and you can create a micro course around it. What you want to ask yourself, though, is like, is the micro course going to lead to your book? Is the micro course going to be something that they can purchase after your book? Right? So I'll give you a couple examples. With my accountant, he has a chapter that talks about tax blunders. So our micro course was basically like, are you a small business owner? Don't make these 5 business blunders. People watched it. People were like, oh, I'm making those blunders. And he was like, I thought so, buy my book, right? So that's kind of how that led into that piece. But, he certainly could have created a micro course on like tax blunders and how to fix them, which would have come after the book read, right? So he also could have taken part of his book and said, you've read my book, and if you want to take a deeper dive on this chapter, I now have a micro course that you can actually buy. And maybe that micro course helps them identify those blunders. Maybe he provides solutions that he didn't provide in his book. Maybe he walks them through some kind of business assessment that helps them kind of analyze, the mistakes that they're making and how to rectify them. So, the answer is like yes and yes, but you really want to be clear on what is my intention behind that micro course. Is it to bring leads to my book? Is it to lead them away from my book to something else? Is it simply just to provide value and to get people to know me and to build my expertise? And that's really where you want to start. And that's just for everybody. That's really where you want to start. We don't want to play eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I have a half a day to record some micro courses and put them out there, because the strategy is going to be key.
Love it. I'm going to answer Tony's question myself, and then I'll read Dr. Atusa's question for you, Kelley.
Okay.
So Tony, do you need a book funnel? Well, you certainly don't need a book funnel like mine, but the idea with a book funnel is you want to take people that are reading your book and you want them to join your community. So a book funnel could be as simple as you offering a micro course that simply gets a name and an email address. So now you're building an email list so that book 2, book 3, book 4, book 5, you can offer, plus whatever else you may want to offer to that list. So that's what a book funnel could do. Obviously, also, some type of funnel can be built out even for fiction that maybe gives, a compelling part of the story, but not the whole story. I was on social media the other day. I was on Facebook, and I was reading this story that I didn't know was a fictional story, but I was like compelled. I was kind of gripped by it, and it was long. It was a long social media post, and I realized, oh crud, this is one of my Facebook groups that I own. That it was somebody like, I thought they were telling about this dramatic story that happened to them. And then it was like, and if you want to read the rest of the story, here's my book. And I was like, oh, they got me. But, I'm not a big fiction consumer. I love to consume nonfiction, but it was really cool. And so you could do something like that with a compelling part of your book that gives a piece of the story that then compels them to want to read the rest of the story. There's a number of ways that you could certainly do it. Not like I do it, because I'm losing money on the front end, because I'm only interested in the right people talking to my team so that we can help them with the end result that they're looking for. And this is for business people primarily, not always, but primarily. In your case, you're just looking for people that want to buy books. And so there's lots of ways to compel that. Dr. Atusa said, question, I've made a free course with modules that go with each chapter of my book. So it's 10 chapters, but with short videos for each chapter. I made it to be used as a free lead magnet, also to be used as a book funnel. Is this a good idea? Your thoughts on that?
So I think the biggest question with that is, once they go through your free course, are they still going to need to read your book? What you want to make sure that you haven't done is put all of the value in this free course, so that by the time they're finished with the course, they think that was amazing. I actually don't need to pick up the book to read it, right? If the intention is that it becomes a lead magnet for your book, you want to make sure that, one, either they're only getting a part of what your book offers so that they still have to go and read your book, or two, consider not making it a free course and consider making it like a supplement to your book, and then having some kind of book course bundle or something like that.
Yeah. And you don't know Dr. Atusa, but she's a Beverly Hills physician. And I think if you're interested primarily, Dr. Atusa, in bringing more people into your high ticket, either services or programs, then the book funnel is about getting people to consume the content. So they go, wow, I want to work with her. I want to work with Dr. Atusa. And so there's nothing in it. If we're trying to just sell the book, then what Kelley said, 100% right. If you're trying to sell something much more expensive, high ticket, bringing people into your practice, et cetera, then you give it all and you go into depth and you make it amazing. And then they say, well, why would I have this problem. Why would I work with anybody else? I want to work with you. I want to work with your team is the idea. Awesome. Scott, samples of micro courses on or better sales I could check out. Any samples, Kelley, that we could share? I could share them in the Facebook group of micro courses. And obviously, Scott, I just shared with you like my funnel. I'm not asking you to go through it. There are links in your membership area that show you like my full book funnel, and you can see the various courses that I have and how I'm using them and, how they've led to, obviously some good results for us. But besides that, Kelley, some examples maybe?
Yeah. So what I can share is, I have some Loom videos of segments of courses that I have created. So I'm happy to share those in terms of, and in the videos, I kind of share like, this is why we created this, and this is what, but I can share Terry's Mass Tort Secrets. Terry was one of
Cool.
Rob's clients. Yeah. And we created a number of courses for him. He actually ended up building out an entire academy after he wrote the book with Rob for lawyers. So yeah, I'm happy to pass those on, Rob, so that you can share them.
I love it. I love it. So I'll get the links from Kelley and I'll post those in the Facebook group, and I'll post those with this recording as well so that you guys have it. I don't think there's anything else. Probably the last thing, unless there's other specific questions, is this. I'll be, kind of documenting some of the stuff that Kelley and I are doing, and we'll probably do another training when my course is done and launched, and show you how I'm using it and what I'm doing with it. And then we can kind of go through some best practices and some specifics using my stuff as an example. And that will probably be, a month or so down the road. Kelley, how does that sound?
That sounds great. And I do want to add with the samples that I'm going to give you, I'm going to strategically send you some that are of different, I don't want to say different quality, but different production, if you will, because what I want everyone to recognize is you can go big and you can really put a lot of effort into it. But with the idea of the micro course, it's just supposed to be simple and easy when it comes to the creation piece. So I'll send some things that are just casual PowerPoints, just people talking on video, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, so that you guys can take get a good feel for recognizing like it can be very short and simple and still be effective.
Love it. Love it. Another question came in. I want to read this because I think it would be valuable for everybody. It's from Brenda. Brenda's a longtime BSP client. Brenda says, I have a plethora of content and supplemental content after a health accident put me on almost a 4-year pause that I'm just now bouncing back from. I'm not sure the best way to chop up my content that can be a relaunch of my books and business. Any quick thoughts to assist? The best thing that the best advice that I could give you is that that's more about a strategic decision than it is about your content. And so, in one sense, a reset gives you an opportunity to do anything that you want to do, right? When I had to shut the doors to my mortgage and real estate business and lay off 25 people, did I think it was a blessing? No. Did I think it was great? No, it was horrible. It was awful, but it was an opportunity for me to do anything I wanted to do. I was no longer chained to that business. The doors were shut, and the landlord would have to sue me for the rest of the lease on the 6,000 square foot office that I just closed up. So it was horrible, and I'm not saying anything other than that. But from a strategic standpoint, I decided I'm done with real estate. I got my real estate license at 18. I was 40 something at that point. I'm done. I'm moving on to something else. And so this is an opportunity for you first to make a strategic decision. What do you want to do? And if what you want to do is directly in line with your content, then your next step, and we can talk more about this, but your next step is to find what is the most compelling part of your content and start there. What is the thing that is the sexiest, most exciting, most amazing, most transformative? I see you, Sylvia, most incredible thing, and start with that. Because if that doesn't work, then wow, the rest of it won't, right? So start with the best, put your best foot forward, and see where we go from there, whether it's building your list or selling that content or fill in the blank. So we can talk more about that. So anyway, I want to wrap it up. You guys are fantastic.